This week on Elevate Your Wealth, retirement security is in a rut. Confidence about retirement falters as worker and retiree concerns grow, and helping couples work through financial disagreements. All that and more on this week's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. They've got a combined 75 plus years experience in the retirement planning business, helping their clients get ready for retirement, certified financial fiduciaries. And again, you can find them right here in Seattle, Elevated Financial Management, the website, efmnw.com. Treat it as a resource, all letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, our radio show, and podcast form. A lot of really good information there on planning, but background information on Mark, Casey, Steve, their entire team. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on. We always ask, and we'll start with Mark on this one, just how was the week?
It was good. We got some awesome weather happening in Seattle right now, so it is sunny out. The Mariners could be playing a little bit better baseball right now, so that always is a subject. It's a lot funner when they're doing a little winning, but they've been doing some nonsense on the base pads and just all the way around. But we are just about ready to have our new office section turned over to us, so that's pretty exciting. Yeah, very much so. And guys will be getting. One of our guys is going to be getting an office with a window, so he's very happy about that now. So
well, expanding.
Mark makes it sound like we just lock all of our folks in the closet.
Get in there.
Hey,
keep planning. Get in there.
He hasn't had a window, but he will now. Most everybody else already has windows.
Only one guy did.
Just to put our listeners at ease. So not all the employees are locked in closets.
Is that in the job description? Come work with us. Exactly. You'll get a window.
You're going to be in the conference room for a while. So
I tell you though, I mean, all joking aside, the growth means you're better serving Seattle, which I absolutely love that. Case, how about your week?
Yeah, same. Kind of the same, right? Always big Mariner fan. I think most people know at this point we go to a lot of games, and I love. My wife loves to go with me, so we really enjoy that. And it's been nice weather. I'm a car guy too, so that's always fun when the weather's nice. You get to see a lot of cool cars out there, and go to a couple car meetups in the area, which is fun. And we're excited about where the business is headed. And I think I've shared before, but Mark and I, from time to time, will kind of reminisce about where this all started. When we got this thing rolling a number of years ago, and to see where it's at now is it's really exciting. And for us, what it really does is it reminds us of the families that have placed their trust here. Yep. And what that means to us. And, it really does mean a lot to us. It sounds nice to say, but it really does come from the heart when Mark and I thank our listeners and thank the families that we've been able to help. We get to play a small role in people's life. It's not they do the hard work. They do the savings, and we get to help people find a way to make it last and to hopefully live out their retirement dreams. And it truly is an honor for us. And so thank you to each and every one of you that has done that. And those of you that are even considering doing so or just listen to the show, thank you for listening to the show. We know that there's a lot of other things out there that you could be doing, but hopefully you find something helpful from the show each week.
And Steve, we know you got a window, so you got anything else for us?
I've been enjoying the weather myself, Morgan. My face is a bit redder, so I've been out. So.
Tell them what you did over the weekend.
I went boating on Lake Washington. It was incredible. So many bald eagles out there, people on the water. It was amazing,
That's good stuff. I mean, I tell you, and again, we get moving so fast, guys. It's nice just to kind of take a pause and just understand why you're in this business. You're here to help people, here to help Seattle retire and the surrounding area. And one of the things I love about this show is it's the cutting edge. Whatever's happening, whatever's hot, whatever people are talking about, we're going to have that conversation, but it all comes back to planning, being prepared, being proactive. And we'll tell you how you can grab a no-cost, no-obligation appointment with Elevated Financial Management. Come in, test drive, see if you want to continue. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's what no obligation means. So the first article that we've got up for us, guys, retirement security is in a rut. Survey is indicating this. We get it from Rethinking 65.
Yeah, this is something that caught our eye for sure. Americans are definitely getting concerned about retirement, the economy in general. I think we're all, especially here in the Seattle area, we're very aware now. A lot of our gas stations now, Morgan, we're paying over $6 a gallon.
Crazy.
Now. I know it's ridiculous.
Diesel's over $7 or close to it, anyways. Yeah,
it's over $7 at several of the stations. So again, this is causing some anxiety, a little bit of stress in our clients' minds. But I think there was in this one, there's 5 main bullet points that we're going to talk about. So the economy and an uncertain future and just fatigue with what's going on in this economy is causing people, they don't know what to do with day-to-day life and they're concerned about, what is going to happen all the way around. Healthcare costs are still a massive issue for everyone to think about. Housing prices, just people are getting stressed out about trying to live day to day. There's nothing easy about this right now, and they're concerned. I love what it talked about here, that the greatest retirement fears, and here's the top of the list right here. Declining health care, which is going to entail long-term care, Social Security being cut back or eliminated in the future. What about outliving our savings and investments? And then cognitive decline. I think Casey would agree. I've already got some of that going on. Dementia, Alzheimer's happening. They worry about that, this loss of independence, and just the inability to meet basic financial needs, right? And this is just something that people talk about, and it's concerning to us. You've got to have a plan to address these fears and these anxieties.
I think it's interesting, these retirement fears, typically outliving savings and investments is number one on the list.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting to see that it's not. Yeah. Declining health that would potentially require long-term care is number one on this list at 39%. And then a close second, as Mark, you mentioned, Social Security being cut back or eliminated. That's at 38%. A lot of people are worried about the future of Social Security. And we understand why. I mean, we get why. Mm-hmm. I don't think that either of us, and I think, Steve, you're on the same page, that we don't share those same concerns that Social Security is going to be eliminated, but I think it will look different in the future. I think it has to look different in the future. And I would imagine that most people are in agreement with that. But this is a very interesting result, I would say, compared to what we've seen in the past on some other items. But, the key being here is that these are all things that are addressable to some extent, right? You can have a plan for long-term care. You can have a plan to make your money last in retirement. You can have a plan to make sure that as you do age, you can keep your independence. You can have plans for those things. Now, we can't plan for when those things occur. We can't plan for whether or not you get dementia or Alzheimer's. Those are legitimate concerns, and there's certain things that planning just doesn't resolve. However, a lot of this can be alleviated if you do have the right plan. And I think what else is interesting behind this is, every single one of these concerns here, what is there? There's maybe 6 of them or so, or maybe 7. They're all 30% or higher of the respondents. What we find is that most people that come into our office are worried about every single one of these, right? Yep. So we hear people all the time that are not just worried about running out of money, but they're also worried about how much is long-term care going to cost. And if I do need that, what does it look like? And what should I do for Social Security? What if that gets cut? And I don't have a pension. And, there's oftentimes a swirl of emotion that comes with all these things. And understandably so, because retirement is not a single faceted thing. It is not something simple. It is complex. And there are a lot of moving pieces. and a lot of decisions that have to be made. And here's the key. They're not decisions you get to practice for, right? These aren't decisions that you've made before and seen the result. And so you get to make a decision differently this next time. This is a decision that most of the time people make once in their life and then have to live with the result. And that's, I think, what drives the biggest fear.
Yeah, I was just thinking that gives us some positive things that you can do. I love this. Formulate a retirement strategy. Only 23% have a written plan. So that's down. It could be much better than that. And I like this one. Discuss finances with trusted loved ones. Only 16% say they discuss this with people they're closest to. I think that's important. So again, if you're listening and you're concerned about your finances, you've worked at Boeing, please keep your checkbook at home. Give us a call. We want to talk to you about maybe taxes, how that's going to affect you. We can talk about inflation. So much more that we're going to discuss, but you keep your checkbook at home, and all we're going to do is have a conversation. So please pick up the phone, give us a call.
I mean, think about those concerns, folks, and grab one of these appointments. I mean, long-term care, Social Security being cut back, outliving your savings, cognitive decline. I mean, these are all on the plate, and one of them might be higher ranked than the others for you, but you need a customized plan that is built for you. You can call right now and grab one of our appointments, 866-668-3625. That'll get you in touch with Elevated Financial Management. And again, grab one of those complimentary appointments if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement. These strategies are going to work best for you. You've got concerns. You need the answers to those questions. Call now, 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation. There's no pressure. 866-668-3625. We've got more Elevate Your Wealth coming up on the other side. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management. You can find them right here in Seattle. Mark Stimpson, Casey Elkins, Steve O'Flynn, Craig Roth. I mean, they are growing the team. And today on the program, Stimpson, Elkins, and O'Flynn, 75-plus years of experience. You can check out the website at any time, efmnw.com. It's all letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show. You can see their pretty faces. There are links to the radio show in podcast form. Again, there's background information on the team. There's planning information. There's contact information. There's certified financial fiduciaries, and they're here to help Seattle and the surrounding area retire. I'm Morgan Patrick. It's a pleasure. We are coming off our first article, and exciting to get into article number 2. Confidence about retirement falters as worker and retiree concerns grow. Rethinking 65 gives us this one as well.
Yeah, this is something that, we're very much concerned about people's confidence, and kind of ties in with the last segment that we were talking about. But the majority of Americans that are feeling that they don't have enough money to live comfortably, that the percentage has gone through the roof, that feel they haven't saved enough. But the survey is showing that even going from 25 to 26, confidence is waning, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this is boiling down to. And, it makes this point. It says 7 in 10 retirees and 4 in 5 workers express concern that the government will change the U.S. retirement system. Confidence in future value of Social Security and Medicare benefits have also declined with workers and retirees. So I know that, it's something I count on. I hope Social Security doesn't stop. I've been on Medicare now for about 4 years. So these are benefits that we work a lifetime to accumulate and have. And if these go away or they're dramatically changed, this is going to put some stress on everybody. And that's why we want our clients to have a plan, because this is real.
They don't know. I mean, they're concerned about the cost of housing, that maybe even the size of their savings and investments. Is that going to get them through retirement? So yeah, totally feel that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things are more expensive, obviously, than they've ever been. We all know that, right? Mark, you mentioned the price of gas earlier, right? I mean, it's astounding. You go to the gas station and you fill a regular car and it's $100 or more, right? And that's not, you fill a big diesel pickup, that's a totally different conversation, right? So, and the complication there, right, is that trickles down to everything, because as transportation goes up, your groceries cost more, right? And your packages cost more. And that has a trickle down effect on everything in our lives. As oil and gas raises. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much oil and gas is kind of involved in every facet of our lives, right? I mean, of course, the vehicle itself runs on gasoline and you have oil in the engine, but the tires, the paint, the interior, the plastics, all those things, they all come from oil and gas. So it is this big collective effect. And when you look at retirement, as we've mentioned previously, generally speaking, the number one concern most of the time that people have with retirement is running out of money. What makes that an even more complicated thing is if everything just costs more, right? And you don't make more, right? It's not like you go to your boss and you just suddenly get an 8% raise because cost of living is up that much. That'd be great. And some companies do that, but that's not as common. And so that being the case, we get where people are coming from. And I mean, look at housing, right? Especially in our area. Housing in Seattle is wildly expensive, right? It really is so expensive. I remember you look at $1 million house and you'd be thinking, man, he's got $1 million house. That's a beautiful home, right?
One day.
Yeah, exactly, right? That was something to like kind of aspire for. And now you go walking through a neighborhood with houses for sale. $1 million house hasn't been updated in 30 years. It needs $400,000 or $500,000 worth of updating. And it's maybe not kept in the best repair. I mean, things are so expensive, not just across the country, but in our area. And it really comes back to having a plan to be able to deal with these kinds of things. It does. Without that plan, there's no way that you're going to keep up with inflation. It just isn't the case.
Sorry, Morgan. I was just going to say debt is talked about in this article as well. It's a significant challenge. And workers are saying 65%, that's a huge number, are saying that they've got a debt load that is significant. Half of the workers that they polled said they have credit card debt, and 33% of those have more than $25,000 in non-mortgage debt alone. So debt is weighing on everybody because, again, if you don't have enough income or inflation's and people are using their cards, some of them just to get by. Like I said, some are probably using that to buy fuel. And the news the other night showed how many guys that do food delivery, taxi drivers, they're all massively struggling now because of this. So this problem is really becoming front and center. And I just think that there was one other point it makes here. It says more than 2 in 5 workers and 1/4 of retirees said they don't know where to get financial or retirement planning advice. However, 40% Americans say they're working with a professional, but many are saying they need to start. And we highly recommend that you never have too much runway to begin to work with a planner that can help you and guide you, give you ideas that maybe you've never thought about when it comes to retirement and income planning and tax planning.
Well, you bring up an excellent point about the debt. I mean, it's too easy to whip out the plastic when things get tough. Things are expensive. People are doing it. They're making minimum payments on these credit cards, and the interest rates they're through the roof. So they're creating this hole that's going to be very hard to dig out of. But if you have structure, guys, you talk about it all the time. If you have a plan on how your money is going to be handled, and also a plan for getting rid of the high interest debt.
Yep.
Yeah, that debt, as you mentioned, Morgan, it's astounding when you look at not only the debt of the country, but the actual debt that that consumers have, right? That just carry month to month. And you know what? Some of it is just the cost of living and the way things are, but some of it is just unfortunate or poor decision making. And it's too bad that that's the circumstance. But if you do find yourself in a spot where you have high interest debt, you have got to come up with a plan to solve that. You absolutely have got to come up with a plan to solve it, because that will keep you in a state of
treading
unsure
water
for quite some time. And it's something that you want to address. And, there's different methods out there. There's folks that focus on that kind of thing. There's a snowball, right, where you pay off the highest interest first, and then you take that payment, roll it down into the next one. And there are things that can be done. But, I think the biggest thing that really can be done about this is just awareness of what you're spending on. Because it to your point, Morgan, it's easy to pull out the credit card. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to swipe your credit card. I don't even have to swipe it anymore. I just tap it, right? I don't even have to tap my credit card. I tap my phone or my watch, or you know what I mean? And pretty soon you'll be able to like snap your fingers and pay the bill. And it's ridiculous at this point. It's become so easy to spend money. And if you rewind, when you think about this, right, 40, 50 years ago, what'd you pay with? You paid with cash, right?
Yeah.
And if you were like, really ahead of the curve, maybe you used a check. But that hurts. It hurts to pull out $100 bill and pay for dinner. You know what doesn't hurt and has no emotional impact is tapping your credit card. Yeah. It doesn't. And so people are more disconnected from their money than they've ever been. And by default, more unaware of the spending that they do. I don't know about you guys, but the Amazon guy keeps coming to my house. He shows up every day. It's like, I don't know if we have a standing appointment or what, but he's there all the time. Yeah. And it's just easy to spend the money, right? Yeah. But if you're unaware of how you're spending, that is one of the quickest ways to find yourself in a spot where you feel uncomfortable and uneasy about what your finances look like.
We do use that expense sheet sometimes when we have that conversation with people sitting opposite us. They're like, I actually don't know how much I'm spending. So we have this expense sheet and it kind of labels it down. And then finally, once you know what you're spending, determines how much you can actually need for income as well.
You're right, Steve. I mean, that is the foundation of a solid retirement plan is knowing what you spend your money on, what you need in retirement, right? Because it's great to say, hey, we can generate $120,000 a year worth of income for you. But if you actually need 150, well, then that 120 doesn't really mean all that much to you, right? So it really comes down to what you need. And that's the basis of a retirement plan. So if you've been listening to the show, if you'd like to get a retirement plan, if you want to figure out what that income needs to look like for you to be able to live the retirement that you want, what type of risk you're taking, and maybe what type of risk you should be taking in retirement, how to create the income, how to be tax efficient, all of these different parts and pieces. And then here's the big one, how they work together in your individual circumstance. This is your opportunity to do it. Please don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. It's completely complimentary. We will sit down and have a conversation focused on you and what you want retirement to look like. Don't hesitate. Give us a call now.
All right, we've been hitting some pain points and probably hitting some with you. Opportunity to come in and talk about your overall, how you're looking. Are you ready for retirement? If you're sitting on a portfolio you don't even know, call this number, 866-668-3625. This is no cost, no obligation. There is no pressure. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call our number, grab one of these appointments, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, when mom and dad fight, we're going to help couples work through financial disagreements. That's the next article. Stay tuned. Welcome back in. It's Elevate Your Wealth in Seattle. It's all about planning for the future, planning for retirement. Elevated Financial Management is the power behind this program right here in Seattle. Our hosts are Mark Stimpson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. They've got 75-plus years experience helping their clients get ready for the big day and beyond. Certified Financial Fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on. Couple things to tell you about. Website, efmnw.com. That's efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, our radio shows are in podcast form. And we also have the book. And guys, I want you to talk about this coming into this segment, Break the Glass, and we have an opportunity for listeners to grab a free copy.
Yeah, you know what? This is something, we've mentioned this before, we're really proud of. We're actually updating the numbers internally. Mark and I wrote this book together, and it's something that we're excited to offer to our audience, because we know that if you're listening to this show, if you watch us on TV, if you come to one of the retirement classes, you're really focused on education. And you know what? That aligns perfectly with who we are because we're focused on education. That's why we do the radio show. That's why we do the TV show. That's why we teach at the local colleges. And that's exactly why we wrote Break the Glass, because we want people to be educated. We want them to feel confident about what the future holds. And we want them to be able to figure out on their own, at least to some extent, what they should be worried about. And so if you're trying to figure out what retirement is going to look like for you and what areas you need to be focused on, the book will help to address that. It talks about taxes, Social Security, Medicare, creating income in retirement, long-term care, all those different things that we talk about on the show on a regular basis. And so we're excited to offer it to everybody. Go to breaktheglassbook.com. We'll send you a copy. You don't have to cover any of the costs. We'll ship it out to you. We're happy to share it with you. And then, of course, after reading the book, we'd love to see you here in the office if it makes sense for you, if there's some way that we might be able to help. So breaktheglassbook.com, please take advantage of it.
Yeah, knowledge. Knowledge is power. And right now, a lot of you out there are concerned, and you should be, with everything that's going on in our world today. Having confidence and having structure when it comes to your money as you head towards your retirement, it is paramount. We get on this show, we talk the talk every single week, but we also give you an opportunity to walk the walk. And what I mean by that is a no-cost, no obligation, no pressure appointment with Elevated Financial Management. Come in, talk about your situation, because you need a customized plan. And again, no cost, no obligation, no pressure. You can call at any time. The number's 866-668-3625. One more time, 866-668-3625. If you save $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies can work best for you. But if you're just looking at a portfolio balance, not a plan, get on that plan that we have for you. Again, free, no obligation appointment. Again, 866-668-3625. Final article before we get to our questions, guys, and I think this happens a lot, so I'm glad we're talking about it. Kimberly Foss penning this one. When mom and dad fight, helping couples work through financial disagreements. What? Couples have financial disagreements? Really?
Yeah. You know what? We see it in the office a lot. We really do. That's the number one thing that couples fight over, right? I think most surveys come back with that being the result, that is finances is the number one thing that causes disruption in a relationship like that. And this is a great article because it really does highlight that. It says that a recent Bankrate survey found that 40% of adults in committed relationships admit to concealing financial information from their partner or have committed financial deception. I will say that's a bigger number than I anticipated for sure. It's unfortunate that that's where it's at, but it could be overspending. It could be secret debt, a savings account or a checking account that the spouse is unaware of, or a credit card, a clandestine credit card, it says in the article, right? So, you know what? And I'll say this, and Mark, you can attest to this. Steve, you can too. And I'm sure if Craig was here, he'd feel the same. How often does it come up that a husband and wife almost look at us as the advisor to help play the therapist in that situation and solve those problems? It does happen quite a bit, and it's something that we have to navigate. And you know what? Sometimes it's easier to talk about these things with a third party there. It really can be easier to talk about it with a third party. But, as advisors, right, we have to be careful not to take a side too, right, through that conversation.
Yeah.
But,
well, I love how Kimberly says sometimes we as advisors, we got to put on the striped shirt. That is so good, right? I love that term. We got to be the referee. And I love what she talks about here, because it isn't necessarily always about just financial disagreements and budget arguments. That's kind of financial for sure, but spending quarrels, or the big one in her practice, and we've seen this in ours, whether or how much to help out an adult child. Now, fortunately, I haven't had any boomerang children come back, and all mine have been married a long time, and they haven't ever had to come back home. But it talks about this article that if we don't have the right attitude about what we're going to do if a child does come back home, if we decide to bail them out when they are having financial pressure and issues, it can affect our own retirement, which in a way is a disservice to our children, because they might end up down the road having to help us because we used a lot of the money that we could be using to pay for maybe long-term care, whatever it might be, to take care of us. So again, this is something you really need to think about if you have a child that needs help. And we're going to help our children, but we have to be balanced because we have got to come first. My wife and I talk about this all the time, and we talk about it with our clients. This is about our retirement, not necessarily our children's inheritance,
For sure.
right? And you've got to be balanced about how you deal with this.
Yeah, talking about almost like polite boundaries. I mean, this is going to be your retirement. Couples that come in and they've got these kinds of issues, you really need to put your cards on the table. I love what you said there, Mark, and obviously Kimberly Foss throws it in the article that you're like referees. It's like in this corner, instead of their stats, it's like he's got 15,000 in hidden credit card debt, and they've got 250,000 left on the mortgage. And how are they going to make it work? And it's up to the referee sometimes to kind of draw the line, almost that third party view. To help a couple. Now, I did want to ask you both this, and obviously Steve too, how important is it when you have a situation like this for both parties to be in the meeting?
I want to say this is critical because we've actually had this happen in our office where one of these subjects came up and the wife or the husband look at each other and go, I never knew you felt this way.
It happens a lot.
Now, see, this happens way more frequently than you might want to believe this. And I just think sometimes when we talk about finances with a husband or wife, money can mean different things to different people and in different ways. And helping them to address this and figure out really if you came from a home where maybe money was not readily available and you struggled with everything, it can cause you to possibly have a bias about spending any money, but we have to, again, be balanced. So we need to understand our clients and how maybe their past history is shaping the way they are acting and handling certain situations. I thought this was a really important part about this. And then the other big one is we sometimes have to be willing to help our clients to maybe listen a little more because Casey and I have had some clients where you begin to talk about a subject and they're off going down another bunny trail, not hearing anything that we're trying to share with them. And that can be frustrating because it's not going to help them in the long run if they're not willing to listen.
Yeah, the article makes a point about different personality types when it comes to money.
Oh, yeah.
And we've probably all taken those different tests, right? Like Myers-Briggs or the DISC test or these different things, right? And you're an A type or you're a red or I don't know, whatever those different pieces are. But this makes the point that we also have what's called a money personality, right? And that is the case. And there's some folks that grew up without anything. And so they look at money in a very specific way that you save every dollar that you can. And that's great, right? That serves them really well. But we've also seen folks that have grown up without anything and they get some money and then they spend it all, right? Because they never had it before. And so it's this exciting thing. And so how you personally deal with money is not necessarily how your spouse deals with money, right? That's really the point the article is making. And some of that is founded on experiences in our childhood. Some of it is just founded on who we are as a person and the income that we have and the experiences that we have. And you know what? Some of it can just be founded on the hobbies and the interests that we have, right? It's a great example. A husband and wife that I was working with, the husband wanted to travel the world after they retired, and the wife says, I don't want to leave the state. I want to work in my garden every day. Yeah. Well, by default, her retirement's going to be a lot less expensive than his is, right? And so they just have different views of what that money is for and what it's supposed to do for them. And it's something that it's the same as anything else. If we don't talk about it, it becomes the boogeyman in the closet, and the resolution never happens. There's never a spot where we get on the same page if we never talk about it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we've seen over the years is husbands and wives, they don't talk about these things. until they're in the room with us. And then it's like this aha moment. And so, if you're listening to the show, talk about it with your spouse, right? I mean, don't hide credit card debt. Hopefully they're not hiding it from you. That's a point in this article too. But talk about it with them and figure out what they want and be a good listener. That's the biggest thing. Don't cut them off. Don't jump to the conclusion. Don't be quick to tell them why they're wrong. Hear them out. Ask them questions about it. Help them help you so that you can understand better. And then vice versa. When they ask you questions, share and be open and tell them how you feel about it.
Yeah, you've got to be willing to compromise. That's the bottom line. I love this fact that she talks about. You've got to define mutual goals and then be willing to put them in writing. I think that helps. Sometimes we'll talk about them, but we never do it. So I just think it's really important. So if you're listening, maybe you're thinking about having some struggles right now. You're maybe having some disagreements. You don't know what to do when it comes to taxes. Inflation. Where's your income going to come from? Is it going to be guaranteed? Pick up the phone, and all we're going to do is have a conversation. You're going to leave your checkbook at home. Just give us a call. Tell us about your specific situation. Maybe we can get you to thinking about some things in a way you've never thought about those in the past. So please pick up the phone, give us a call, and we'll just have a conversation. That's it.
You're a couple out there. Look at each other right now and say, you know what? Let's call Elevated Financial Management. Let's go in and let's talk about our situation because we haven't up until this point. This is your opportunity right now. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Again, couples, we're talking to you this segment. Come on in. 866-668-3625. We've got more Elevate Your Wealth coming up. Welcome back. It's Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Hosted by Mark Stimpson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. 75-plus years experience in the planning business, helping their clients get ready for the big day and beyond. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. Absolute pleasure to jump on. We get into these topics. We're going to hit some questions here in just a sec. Want to tell you a couple things. One, the website. Check it out. Resource, efmnw.com. All letters. efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, radio show, and podcast form. Planning information, background information, again, on Mark, Casey, Steve, Craig, the entire team that is growing to better serve Seattle. And breaktheglassbook.com. Go there, get signed up. They'll ship Break the Glass out to you. No cost, no obligation. Don't even have to pay shipping. That's breaktheglassbook.com. All right, question number one. Steve, we're going to start you off with this one. Here it is. Is it normal to still feel unsure even if I think I've done everything right up until this point?
It's very normal. Retirement isn't just financial, it's emotional. You spent decades building and now you're switching to using what you've built. And this shift can feel uncomfortable, even if everything looks good on paper. Confidence doesn't just come from having a plan, it comes from understanding it. And I would agree with that. You know, a question we get asked often is, how often are we going to meet? You know, what's our cadence? Are we... And I feel when people make the jump from moving into retirement, it can be emotional. It can be nerve-wracking for them. And they just want to know that ultimately we're going to guide them through that. So we do, I think, ultimately, those first few months is a lot of communication because it's a lot to take on at one point. You have to really break down these concepts and make sure, the person we're working with fully understands. And I know you got something to say on that, Mark.
Well, I was just thinking, we talk about this all the time, right? The difference between going up the mountain. And I I love the Mount Everest analogy. Going up the mountain, people, a lot of times can make it to the top. Where the struggles and where the bad things happen is usually on the way down. That's when people perish on, climbing and coming down Mount Everest. And this is so true because bottom line is coming down the mountain, when you have to factor in taxes, long-term care, inflation, all of these things, they can affect on the way up. But when you have a set budget that you need to live on and you don't have a plan for this, you can struggle and you can be in big trouble when you try and come down from Mount Everest and you don't have a plan. It could go sideways. We talk about sequence of return risk, which we won't get into now, but the bottom line is that these things can affect you, and you need to be working with someone that really specializes in true retirement planning.
Yeah, it does come from a collective effort and having that plan. But, that being said, the plan itself doesn't necessarily give you 100% confidence. You need to understand the plan, right? As you mentioned, Steve, right? Understanding that plan is really important. And, at the end of the day, it's a big shift to move into retirement. It's huge, right? And it's something that I think because we talk about it all the time, and not just on this show, but just in life, right? People talk about retirement. Oh, Jack retired, or my uncle retired, or, whatever it is. It just seems like, oh, it's kind of this no big deal thing. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal, right? And it is a totally different mindset. It's a total shift. You don't report to somebody. You have so much more time. But also at the same time, you now have to pull from your investments. You've been adding to your investments for 40 years, and now suddenly you have to start taking money out. And it's not really a transition. It's like last week I made a contribution, and this week I'm taking money out, and now I'm going to do that for the next 40 years.
Right.
That's a totally different thing. It's the exact opposite, really, right? Yeah. And change is always scary. It absolutely is. People are afraid of change. We get that. As a matter of fact, you know what, just to illustrate that point, how many times have you known somebody, and maybe you found yourself in this spot, you've known somebody that worked at a place that they just couldn't stand their job. They hated their job, but they never looked for anything else. Why didn't they look for anything else? Because change is scary, right?
Yeah, they were comfortable.
They were comfortable, even though they didn't like it, even though it was awful, even though they came home defeated and beat down at the end of the day and it doesn't pay enough and all the things, they still stay there because the saying goes, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? And when it comes to retirement, even though it's something exciting, something we're looking forward to that we've been planning and working on for years and years, it's still something that you haven't done before, right? It's still something that you've never had every minute of every day unplanned, and you got to do whatever you want whenever you want, at least not for an extended period of time. Best case scenario, when you're working, you get like a week or two of that a year where you get to go do whatever you want. And even then, I don't know about all of our listeners, but I know for me, when I go on vacation, there's still a lot of planned days on that vacation, right? So now suddenly I wake up and every day Saturday, I get to do whatever I like. That's scary. And when you start taking money out of your investments, that's scary. And so it's normal to feel unsure. It is. It's normal to have that uneasiness. But this is where the difference comes in from just financial planning to retirement planning. It's one thing to plug the numbers in and for us to show you can take the income. It's another thing for us to talk about what you want to do in your retirement and what the day is going to look like and what you want to accomplish and what hobbies you now want to pick up and master, right? Those are all parts of planning that will give you more confidence as you move into your retirement.
Yeah, it's funny Casey's mentioned this because it comes to the fore every time. Our biggest challenge is working with individuals that have been great savers, helping them to appreciate they can be great spenders. They struggle with this, and we have to, we almost have to be the referee to give them permission to spend their own money, right? And it's their money, but that's what one of our biggest jobs is to help them feel confident and make them appreciate that they can do it. This isn't just a dream, it's a reality. And we're going to talk about this more here in our next question or two, but this is something that is a real problem for individuals that just don't want to ever start to spend.
Yeah, and they don't think about it, guys. I mean, you go from working for 40 years and you're getting a paycheck every couple of weeks, every month. Yep. And all of a sudden you go from that, as Casey and both Mark and you've all pointed it out, you go from collecting to having to pay yourself. You know, you have to have structure. You have to have a plan. You have to create your own retirement paycheck. And just showing up with a portfolio, that's going to be tough to do. That is not a plan. Opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management and talk about this particular situation, your retirement situation. Call the number 866-668-3625 if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement. These strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, secure an appointment, 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation, no pressure, no judgment. This is you. This is your portfolio. And are you ready for retirement? All right, question number 2 to Casey. Let's get this one. Should I be making changes every time the market moves? And boy, I tell you, you get whiplash looking at the market right now.
Yeah, you really do. Whiplash is a great way to put it, Morgan. It's crazy what's going on in the market. And we've had some wild days recently. We've had some great positive days, and we've had some really big negative days as well. And you know what? Regardless of where you stand, is the market going to continue upward? Is it going to, are we facing a downturn? And you know what? If you go on the internet, you're going to find an answer supporting both of those things. You can find an article that says, no, we're approaching the greatest time in the market ever. And you can find another article or a video or something that says, no, like it's already begun and the world is ending tomorrow, right? So it's all out there. But the simple answer to the question is no. When the market is volatile, don't be surprised. The market is doing what the market does, right? That is what it is. That's what it's always been. But the key here is that it's now on a larger scale, right? Because a 1% move in a S&P 500 that's worth 1,500 points isn't a massive number. It's still a 1% move, but a 1% move on an S&P 500 that's 7,000 points, that's a bigger move, right? So the volatility is higher because of the scale. The volatility is also higher because the world is more complicated and maybe to some extent difficult than it has been in the past. But the key here is if you have a plan, the plan will allow you to ride those things out. The plan will allow the market to act as the market does. If you only want to be in the market when it's going up, my suggestion would be don't get into the market because you can't control that, right? You have got to be okay with the downside as well. But here's the key. It's other tools that make it okay for the market to do its thing, that make it okay when the market has a pullback, when it has a bad week or a bad month or a bad quarter. That's okay because you have other tools, you have other buckets, you have other money working for you in a different way. So, don't let the market scare you into making these moves, because it's oftentimes that those kind of scared moves, those uneasy moves, those reactions, instead of planning the reaction to what the market does, that's when people really start to lose funds. And that's when we've had folks come in that say, you know what, I don't think I've ever made a dime in the stock market. And then as we start to ask more questions, it's because they get nervous and they pull their money out and then things go good. They have a good week and then they buy back in, and then the market has a bad day because that's what the market does. It goes up and then it goes down. Yeah. And they pull their money back out. And so they just have the opposite of the timing that they should have. And that's what really can create this issue.
Yeah, see, and that's where, like we've been talking about, they're trying to time the market, right? It's not trying to time the market, it's time in the market. And so you have to take emotion out of it, because if you don't, you're probably not going to be very successful. At least we don't try and do it that way. We will never try and time the market for our clients, because we know nobody can do it. And anybody that thinks that they can, I think you're kidding yourself.
Now, that being said, for those of you that have been listening to the show, if you would like to get a plan, if you'd like to know what your retirement could look like, and if you want to be in the driver's seat with the planning decisions as far as it pertains to your future, this is your opportunity. This is your chance to get a written financial plan put together by a team of certified financial planners, folks that not only have the accreditation to build the plan, but folks that are going to ask you what you want your retirement to be, what you want to do with your time, and how to make the finances fit your goals, make the finances fit your life instead of the other way around. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone and give us a call.
All right. We're here to help the Great Northwest retire. This is your opportunity. No cost, no obligation. Seattle, take advantage of this. 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation, no pressure. And again, no judgment. 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth in the books for Mark, Casey, and Steve. I'm Morgan. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.